Today is Saturday, December 5th, 2015, and this is the Bunny Slippers of Evil Job Seekers Call-In Show, presented by Evil Bunny Consulting. I'm your host, Tyrone Griffin, and if it's 3 p.m. and you have on your bunny slippers, you are not looking for a job. Welcome, first-time and returning listeners. And in this show, we discuss strategies and tactics of job search, staying motivated, and dealing with career transition. For more tips, resources, daily motivations, and to listen to archive shows, go to the website bunnyslippersofevil.com. There you also find links to our Facebook page, our Twitter handle, and our YouTube handle. If you're listening live, you can call in with your questions at 347 202 0929. Again, that number is 347 202 0929. Now, a word from our sponsors. Evil Bunny Consulting is the alternative to expensive outplacement. They give company-sponsored job seeker workshops as well as a one-on-one job seeker boot camp. For more information, go to bunnyslippersofevil.com. Resume Edit is a low-cost, high-quality resume writing company with resumes as low as $35 written by certified resume writers. You can find them online at www.resume4edit.com or call 404-860-2473. Be sure to tell them you heard about them on the Bunny Slippers of Evil Job Seekers podcast. Let 3dresumes.net turn your resume into a web page with a customized domain for 12 months for only $30. Help hiring managers and recruiters find you, make your resume available 24/7, and get a free professional personalized email address just for your job search. You can see my online resume at tyronegriffin.com. For more information on how to get your own, go to 3dresumes.net. If you're thinking or about to look for a job in today's world, you will find a new reality in the job search process. The world has changed. Job search today is much more complicated than 5 years ago. Volumes of resumes, more applicant screening systems, depersonalized applications, panel interviews, team hiring, long complicated applications, branding, and social media. Yes, the world has changed. But have you? Are you still trying yesterday's approach? Why struggle and miss out on today's opportunities? Career Oyster is here to help. Great coaches, the latest resources, unique strategies personally tailored to your job search. Find out the new reality and how you can prevent costly mistakes. To register for a free 45-minute private session with head coach Howard Caddy, go to careeroyster.com. Find out the facts now. You'll be glad you did. Remember their motto, the world is your oyster, be the pearl. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome. I hope everybody had a safe and productive week. This week for the newcomers, the first Saturday of the month, we do job search Q&A. So if you have any questions, you're listening live and you want to call in with your questions, the number is 347-202-0929. Again, that call-in number is 347-202-0929. Before we get into the show, it's going to be a little different this week. Well, not really different. We're going to talk about Q&A. But the last couple of weeks has probably been some really interesting shows. A couple of weeks ago, I did the show for coaching, for coaches and band directors, and what we want out of you. That was just something that was in my mind, on my heart, so I did it. Last week was our annual What I'm Thankful For show. So much more I could have said, and I didn't. So I just hope everybody appreciated those shows. And this week, Job Search Q&A. This month, for me, is kind of an anniversary, a 10-year anniversary of when things in my world started going bad from a job search perspective. I talked about it on a previous show, about a month or two ago. I talked about, things I'd gone through the last 10 years on different jobs. I'm going to talk about it again, but this time I want to talk about it from the perspective of what I could have done differently in those situations. I think a lot of times in job search, in our careers, we find ourselves in situations and we act certain ways, but then we look back and say, well, you know what? I could have done something different to make that situation come out better. I could have acted a little better. I could have acted a little different. I could have done some things different. So I'm going to, this was the 10-year anniversary for me of, not today, but this month when things I had been in a company. I had worked for a company for 18 years in the healthcare industry. At that point, 16 years in the healthcare industry. And had done various jobs and moved around different areas, and I had a good understanding, a good grasp of how everything worked. And that was up in the Northeast, and I had actually taken a job, and back in the week of Katrina, I think it was in September, or August or September of 2005, that week we actually moved 1,100 miles to the southeast. And by this time, by now, 10 years ago, I had been on the job about 3 4 months maybe, and there was a reorg. Well, I was promised certain things um, to come down here. There were promised were certain things that would be done as far as training and so on. And I walked into the middle, literally. They did a reorganization, and I ended up a lot of the things that I was promised didn't happen. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's just the nature of reorganizations. You're promised certain things, and then when they reorg, everything goes, pretty much goes out the window. Um, for me, on a side note, what was really sad about it was a good friend of mine was one of the architects of the organization, and I reached out to him when things were going crazy, and well, let's just say it's been 10 years since we've had a conversation, and not mad anymore. Things have worked out for me, but like anything else, and this is not the psychotherapy show this week, but like anything else, when you need somebody, and friendship is great. One of the benefits of friendship is, in a time of need, um, you can count on somebody. And for me, at that point, I needed somebody. And a friend of mine, I felt like he wasn't there. Anyway, I'm not going to get all into that. But yeah. So anyway, the situation, it deteriorated for the next, I was there for another maybe 18, 16, 15 months. And it deteriorated. It was a situation where I was not prepared. I literally and truly, I was not prepared, and I shouldn't have been, based on what I was told. It was going to take a long time, um, and when things changed, the the training that I was supposed to get over 3 years literally evaporated overnight. So I just found myself in a situation where I was literally, I was literally over my head, and I was working 12 hours a day, and literally it wasn't a matter of working hard. It's when you don't know what you're doing. Um, and I mean, looking back on that position, it's easy. Easy to say that, I should have asked my manager for more guidance. But at the time, I give him credit. He was doing the best he could. He got thrown into a beat grinder as well, bigger one than I did. Um, so what could I have done differently? And then this position is, when I was thinking about this week's show, and this is one that I had the hardest time addressing. What could I have done differently? I was put in a bad situation, and I'm not trying to, woe was me. Um, I've had conversations with my old boss after, years later, and he confirmed, yeah, you were put in a no-win situation. But what do you do when you find yourself in that situation? I did at looking back, yeah, it was my manager. He knew how bad it was. He even suggested, go find a job somewhere else, man. You got to go find a job, because this is not working out, and you are in a really bad situation. I had some other things going on in my life at that time, but no excuses for it. But I was in a no-win situation. The job I was in, the writing was on the wall that my time there at that position was going to be limited. It was not, aside, I had just spent, again, I was with the company 16 years in different areas. Um, that I wasn't going to make 30 years, put it like that. Probably wasn't going to make 20 years. Um, but there's sometimes you have to acknowledge the obvious, and it sounds crazy. People in relationships, especially, how many times somebody's in a relationship and it's a bad situation. It's just bad all around, and they stay there. They don't leave. It's going to get better. We're going to make it get better. And guys too. So ladies, I'm not trying to point you out, call you out on this. Men do it too. But there's a point where you realize this is not going to end well. Whether it be there's no promotional opportunities here, or there's no staying opportunity here. This is not going to end well. I have a friend right now who's dealing with a situation where they're in a job where they are being pigeonholed. I call it. They're being put in a box, and there's nowhere that it's obvious, the writing on the wall. It's obvious that they are not going to move up. They're not going to move up in the organization. As a matter of fact, they're being minimized on one hand, and on the other hand, they're being thrown more work than they can handle. So they are being, in my opinion, they're being used. So if you're in that situation where, their situation is different than mine was. But if you find yourself in that situation where it's no win, where there's nothing you can do, you got to face facts, face reality, and you got to leave. You got to start looking for a job. If that's the situation, loyal to the side. Again, I was with this company 18 years by the time I left. And it's easy to just say, well, they're going to take care of me. Understand this. Corporations are corporations, and they function in the best interest of the corporations. Okay? What is in the best interest of the organization? Not what is in the best interest of you as an individual. So sometimes you have to acknowledge that fact and realize that and say, well, you know what? If the companies in general, and I can tell you this from experience, if you are not a good fit for where they're trying to go, they will cut you off, period. They will put you out. They will do it nicely if need be, but at the end of the day, it's about which direction the corporation is going and how do you fit into those plans. So what you have to do is accept that, okay, this is not a good situation, and look, move on. This is a person I'm working with right now, same situation, and they're looking. What happens is, and sometimes in a job you get complacent. I couldn't get, in the situation I was in, I couldn't get complacent because it was a nightmare. But there are times you get in a job and you're complacent because, okay, I'm getting a check every week. I know my job. It's easy. I don't have to think. Let me just ride the wave. And riding the wave works until that time when they come at you and get rid of your organization. And then you realize, oh, wow, the writing was on the wall for all of us for the last 6 months. Why didn't we do anything about it? So, the question I always ask myself and ask anybody when they're going through something like this, it's like, yeah, I feel for you. It's rough. Now, simple question, what are you going to do about it? That's the only question that needs answering. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there and take it, or are you going to try to do something? And, maybe going into your boss's office and having a one-on-one, a heart-to-heart one-on-one might be the answer. But sometimes you have to realize this organization and I are going in different directions, different incompatible directions. And when that happens, you have to move. You have to do what's in your best interest for you and your family. Okay, remember that. You do what's in your best interest always, because the organization is going to do what's in its best interest always. When the two meet, great things. When they don't meet anymore, you have to move on. So anyway, I want to dwell on that job. So basically, the lesson I learned from that job, or the takeaway, what could I have done anything different, was probably look for a job sooner than I did. I should have started looking sooner. So that was the takeaway from that job. So I landed a job, and I think I told this on here a couple of times. My leave date was March 5th. It was a Monday, March 5th, and I was offered an opportunity somewhere else on Friday, March 2nd. And, it was like, wow. So moved on to another position. And again, don't think this is the woe is me show. I've been in situations, part of them my own doing, part I think not my own doing, in different jobs. I'm just talking about the jobs. I'm not going to try to put any blame on my side or their side and tell you, go. That's why I'm not going too much detail about it because it doesn't matter. And again, any side, I'm telling my side. So if I start going into detail, you're only going to hear my side, and that's not fair to the organization. So I went on to a new job, and I was there a couple of years. And for about, I would say it was about a year and a half into it. I just say how I felt. One thing about that job, and I'm not going to go into who it was, but my feeling back then, they've been bought out now by another company. But it was my feeling when we work on that job that we spent a good half of our time, everybody working there who did analysis, we spent a lot of our time trying not to be blamed for things. And what I mean is you're making sure that, you ever see people do it? If something's going to blow up, I'm going to be able to point to somebody else. And we spent, I would say, a good half of our time. Everything you did, every request you did, you made sure that if it blew up, you were just dealing with what you were given, and we need to go back, another layer to point blame. So I was in that job a couple years, and ended up, I'll just tell you honestly, I ended up on probation on that job after about a year and a half. How did I get there? It's easy to say it was performance-based. I got a different perspective on it. I don't think it was necessarily personal to me. I think sometimes when somebody is trying to elevate somebody, they have to put emphasis on someone else and just to sneak things through the cracks. This is my thoughts. I think, and that's what was happening. I was not a favorite. I don't know, right? I have a great personality. Why couldn't somebody like me? But one of my coworkers, I think, was more highly favored, and they had been there longer, so I can't really complain about that. But as a result of that, when things went sideways, they did a better job of covering themselves. And there were times when it's like, wait a minute, I didn't do this. Well, you were here, but they did. But you were here. They were on vacation. You're responsible for everything. Oh, so I ended up on a 30-day probation. Successfully came out of that, got back on track, and I looked for a job. The whole time I was on there, I was looking for a job. Before people think, my methodology is to cut and run anytime things get bad. No, I said I was at one company 18 years, and there were bad times. I am not. I will tell you a secret. I am not the greatest worker in the world. I'm not the perfect person. We all have, what was that movie, The Truman Show? If they put a camera on all of us 24 hours, that would be one heck of a show for some of us. But I ended up on probation and came out of it. But I was, by this time I had seen what I had just gone through at the other company a couple of years earlier, and I started looking for a job earlier. I saw the way things were going, and again, the company's goals or the department's goals and my goals do not meet, and that's fine. My coworker got a promotion, well deserved, and they changed a little bit. It was I won't get into that, but again, I cut and run. That's what I did because I saw, after having been through that situation already once before, and I thought it was a Southern thing. It's like, man, I was with one company 8 years. Now I'm just switching like crazy. But you have to learn that sometimes, you got to cut and run. The opportunity that they gave me, I'm eternally thankful for that company for giving me the opportunity. But a couple of years out, it became obvious that where the department wanted to go, and I'm not saying the department was wrong, I'm saying where they wanted to go and where I wanted to go were not on the same planet, where I saw myself fitting into that organization. Now, after I left, I'm still friends with several people in the organization. Hang out with them here and there, which is a nice, you figure after 8 years and we still keep in touch. That makes me feel somewhat good. Um, but again, the lesson I learned from that job is sometimes you gotta, when you gotta cut and run, you gotta cut and run. And when you realize this is not going well, and again, I freely admit I ended up on probation for 30 days, and I got off of it. I successfully got out of it, which I'm proud of. That things were not going well, and I was able to turn them around and get them back on track. I'm proud of that. So that job came and went. I left. Got a great opportunity with a third company, and was eternally grateful. It was. I mean, this was the great opportunity. I mean, I had a great boss. I had the organization I worked for. Everything was going well, and I was going well. I was doing very well in that position, in that situation. Me and my boss at the time, they were doing a reorganization of their department, and I was going to end up with a great position in that reorganization. I was moving up the ladder. It was really going well. Yeah, I was at 13 months. Now, you say, well, why did I leave after 13 months if everything was going well? What's my favorite word? Reorganization. We got reorganized, and my boss was moved out. She was put in she was taken off of her team that she ran. She was moved away. They put her in another area and then reorganized her team without her. And I was a business person. I was a business analyst in an IT organization. When IT organizes, you guys organize by jobs description. Business analyst is not a description in most IT organizations. So I was without a job. So yeah, I got reorganized out of a job. I mean, and this was a great job, paid well. Excuse me. I mean, I was in hog heaven, and I just somebody high up in the organization at the time told me, "You'll always have a job here," and my fault was I believed them. And that sounds really crazy, but I believed him, and I didn't open my eyes and look and realize, no, this is not going to be pretty. So the mistake I made then was I took my time, and that was when I ended up after I got laid off from that job, I spent 15 months in the wilderness, as I call it. And I didn't know how to look for a job. Believe it or not, even though I had landed 2 jobs rather quickly, I didn't really know how to look for a job. And the mistake I made again, when you see things aren't going in your direction, you move on. And I didn't move on quick enough. I believed, okay, this won't happen again. This won't happen. I put my head in the sand or whatever. And it was 2 days before my birthday that I got laid off. Yeah. And wasn't it was not for performance reasons. It was a reorganization, and they had no box for me. And I ended up, back at that organization. Anyway, I've been rambling. I ended up back at the organization years later, and people told me, said that was one of the biggest mistakes we made was letting you go. So I felt good about that. But anyway, I spent my 15 months in the wilderness, and I learned about looking for a job, and I landed a job. Thank God, and it was great. I was there for 3 years, and then that went crazy. What did I learn? Again, the 3 companies I've left. There was nothing, in my opinion, I could have done performance-wise or job-wise. It was just a situation where some things were inevitable, and I can say I probably acted a lot slower than I should have. The last job I'll talk about today, because I only got about 5 minutes left. I was there for 3 years, and for 3 years I, did pretty well. And then the organization changed as far as what the management wanted. what they wanted out of their employees. And when I say what they wanted as far as backgrounds and things like that, it all changed. And I I didn't know what I had a manager, a great manager, and I didn't realize how many bullets that she was taking for our team until she left. And when she left, it became obvious. Here's what she was dealing with and wasn't letting trickle down to you. Um, so we had to report to her manager, and it was intense. Um, the mistake there, again, I mean, I could have I looked at moving around into the organization, somewhere else in the organization. Um, didn't really see anything. Didn't really see anything. I looked for a while. Didn't really see anything that I could have that I felt comfortable pursuing. Um, but I learned. I learned from my previous jobs, and you know when the hammer came down this time, and literally, it kind of came down at the same time. I've been looking, and it's nothing greater than the day somebody tells you your services are no longer required, that you already have an interview set up for later that afternoon, a second interview. I learned. I learned to not keep my head in the sand. I learned that when I see things going crazy, not in my best interest, to act upon it. To don't sit and wait for life to be thrust upon you. To go ahead and make your decisions and act upon them and do what's in your best interest. And this is a situation where I got no ill will toward the company or anybody else, but I did what was best, what was in my best interest. And what was my best interest, early on, I saw the way this was going, and I started looking. And as luck would have it, as things worked out the way I was seeing them working out, um, I had something else set up, so I was able to do a soft landing. I mean, literally, where you leave something and 9 days later you get an offer for something else. So it worked out great. I mean, I'm so thankful and appreciative not thankful to God, but I'm thankful for the company that gave me back an opportunity. I went back to a company I used to work for, and that what was funny. I was sitting in a cubicle maybe 5 feet from where I used to sit, and a lot of people could tell you came to me and said, one of the biggest mistakes we made was letting you go. Anyway, I've rambled for a half hour. Hope you've learned something. Hope I said something positive. I guess my point is, when you see the writing on the wall, look for the writing on the wall, number one. But when you see it, accept it. Believe it. Oh yeah, this is how it is. This is what's going on. All right, I can be upset about it, but the fact that I'm upset is not going to change the fact that this is what's about to happen. And accept that, and just, okay, this is what we got to deal with. But act accordingly. Act in your own best interest. Corporations are nice. They make the world go round. But corporations are going to act in their own best interest. And that's just reality. That's what people do. Anybody you're in a relationship with, they're going to act in their own best interest. You can love them all you want, but if they don't love you back, they're not going to do it. So my point this week, I guess, is act in your own best interest. Always consider what's best for you and your growth. And sometimes you got to make an ugly decision, but remember what you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to a retirement that is comfortable. And sometimes you got to cut off something to keep moving. Sometimes you got to start looking. You got to accept the reality that this is not what I thought it was, and this is not going in the direction I hoped it would go, and this is not going in a direction that is good and profitable, not just in a financial sense, but in a financial sense. This is not a direction that is profitable for me to be going in. And you have to accept that. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, this is not going to be something good for me. And when that happens, you got to swallow your pride and move on. Start looking. Okay? Job search is like dating. When you're in a relationship and it's like, this is not going well. You can keep saying, I want to try to fix it. I want to try to fix it. And what came to mind when I said that was, you can't fix stupid. And yeah, you can't fix stupid. And sometimes on the job, you can't fix stupid. So anyway, as always, I thank you for listening. We're winding up the year. We got what three more shows. So with that, everybody have a good week. I will see you next week. I think regular time. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.